Hello everyone, now I'm going to tie this emerger, and more importantly than tying emerger, I'm going to talk about low riding flies, which are, I think, very important when it comes to fishing. And I'll give you a few tips about tying this fly as well, of course. So let's get into tying. So since I'm a bit lazy, I'm just going to tell you what materials I'm using as I'm tying them in, so no need to wait for the end of the video to see all those materials listed. Not gonna do that, sorry. So first of all, I'm using thread, which is 50 denier GSP type. It's quite durable, and that's the reason why I'm using it. Second, it's UV Purple Tinsel. I'm using this one just as a detail, let's say it like that. And I'm gonna tie it over here where I want my thorax to begin. I'm gonna tie it over the top of the hook, let it go down, and when I reach a certain point I'm comfortable with, I'm just gonna cut it off like so. You can make it shorter later if you need, but so far I think this is good. I like to go pretty much deep into the bend of the hook. Now I'll return a little bit here, like so, and trailing shock is very important when it comes to emerger patterns, because it gives that, it suggests vulnerable stage of an insect. And for this trailing shock, and most of them, I'm using Antron, as you can see, and this ginger color. So you can just put it like this and tie it in. What I like to do with this one, because I like to make this bulky start, let's say it like that. So I'm just gonna use very thick noodle, loosely dubbed, and I'm gonna make a ball next to this, like very far away. I'm gonna comb it out, and as I comb it, it's gonna become smaller. As you can see, it's gonna become like a hotspot as well, but most importantly it's gonna get that shape of a trailing shock with head that was here and body starting to emerge from this point here. So my point is, like, the real insect has taper, the trailing shock has taper as well, and this is too long. Of course I'm gonna make it shorter. My point is, body is gonna be translucent, so it's not gonna be so visible. Part where head was, it's gonna be more visible, and that's why I left this ball over here. And all those shocks, they have this shiny effect a little bit, so that's why I have this Antron, and that's why I added this tinsel below it. So I'm gonna just make it shorter right now, as you can see. Now you can choose to make any type of body, peacock quill, anything like pheasant tail. It's probably one of the best materials out. And now I'm gonna use something that I've made video recently. It's Antron, twisted Antron body. So I'm just gonna stick with it a little bit more, and here at the end I want to have these tight turns, so when I start winding it doesn't twist. So dubbing twister, I put it in the thread, and for the body I'm using, let me show you, hexagenia color. So as I promised, the reason why I like to use emerger patterns is they're very fragile, they're easy prey for the fish, and that's why fish like to target them and like to eat them, I think, more than adult stage of an insect. Emerger can be a cripple as well. I mean, we don't know what fish can see out of our fly. but we can just assume. So just let me spin this for a second. So the idea to use emergers more than anything else was, I got it when I was using Klinghammer. Klinghammer is perfect fly. I love it so much, and it brought me so many fish. But the problem with it is that I got bored, to be honest, as I got bored with many flies before. So I like to go and I like to try something new on the water every time I fish. And that's how I came out to, let's say, create this fly, which is like, I didn't create it myself. It's probably a product of my subconsciousness, to be honest, because like we see flies around us and they stay in our head. So eventually we can come out with some patterns that we think that they are ours, but actually they are just I don't know, residue from our head that we saw many times. And to prove that as well, I was talking the other day with a friend from Facebook, Gary, sorry, and he's a nice guy with a lot of experience, and he mentioned some emergers and he mentioned some Scandinavian emergers, and I asked him for a photo, and he showed me something that looks like, let's say, my fly, under inverted commas, of course. So I can't be so confident to say that I've created any fly, but well, we can all say that we created something without knowing that someone else created the same thing, of course. So let me continue. For the wings and the wing case cover, I'm gonna use CDC feathers. It's better to use more rich feathers if you have. If you don't, instead of using 2 feathers, just use like 4. And when it comes to length, align the feather with the tip of the hook like this, and the rear part of the feather is gonna be here. So I'm gonna catch my feather more or less here with pinch and loop, and you can always lift your feather like so, give it a few twists here, and check, is this length good, of course. So it's better to check than later to make it shorter or whatever. I like to do it right from the first time. Now lift those feathers a bit upwards before you add anything else here. It doesn't have to be split at this moment. That's gonna come later. For the thorax dubbing, I'm gonna use one of my favorite dubbings. I mean, you probably noticed that I'm using this dubbing a lot. It's wildcat fur dyed olive with some UV ice dub. And for the thorax part, you can dub it a little bit less tight, so these spiky fibers, they can stick out. That's okay, and you don't have to use too much as well. So you can put too much on the thread, but if you see as you go, as you tie your flies, if you see that you have too much already, just take it out. So all I like to do is I check if everything is in place, and yeah, this is it. I'll do just one more wrap here. Okay, always remember to leave enough room for the head. As you can see, there is a piece of bare hook here, so it's quite enough for the head, and I'm gonna use this as a wing cover. Now I'm gonna cut one of these. Okay, like so, and I'm gonna use this one as a wing cover. So look at this. Use your thumbnail to push this, and then just push forward this middle part. Now look at this. If you have rotational vise, twist it and check if everything is correct, if the wings are split nicely. If so, just pull it tightly and catch it over here. 3 tight wraps are more than enough, and now in front of it. I can cut it right now. Okay. So cut those butt ends if you can. If you can't, well, who cares? Because this is olive fly, I like to edit a little bit of red color, red Sharpie. And the beauty of these GSP threads is that they get this color perfectly. So one whip finish, second one, and done. Now let me explain you a few things about this fly, how to use it and how to get best of it. So this is supposed to be submerged. This trailing shock is supposed to be submerged, so never ever add any floatant on the trailing shock or in the body. Any floatant you want to get is on the wings and above the thorax. Even thorax is good to be under the water. So you can brush it out a little bit to suggest legs. Okay, like so. It's all fluffy. If you think, as I do think now, that this is too much, you can always remove a little bit. So now this looks better. So the point of this fly is to lay like this. Everything should be under the water, and you are supposed to see those wings. And grayling, they just love this fly. So use light tippets. Don't use it in rough water. For rough water, I suggest you use, let's say, something made with this material, so rabbit foot, or something with alkadis, or anything that's buoyant and rough. CDC is quite delicate material. It's very good for nice steady flow, almost calm, so where the fish can inspect your fly a little bit more. And that's one of the reasons why I put a little more effort in this fly than into my usual flies. I mean, this is still pretty fast tie, but it has those details, split wings, and it has trailing shock, a little bit of shiny effect here. And one more thing, if you're concerned about number of CDC feathers used in this fly, let me just tell you one thing. There are flies, let me just show you these. So something like this. There are flies like this where you would use just single tip of the feather, or even like two tips of the feather, and they're like together. So the resistance they make, like on the water surface, is like very, very low, but they still float. And when you split those wings like so, they make more water surface tension with those split wings, so that it adds to the buoyancy of the fly. Those split wings actually add to the buoyancy of the fly, which makes it better when it comes to buoyancy than this one, because this one is like very, very subtle, like a snowflake, as you can see. I mean, it is smaller, but it's different type of fly. So it's also like, here I used two tips, and here I used two tips. So same, just different technique. This one is more buoyant compared to this one, so this one is also a delicate one. I prefer not to use any floatant, as I said, on the body and everywhere else. And I also don't use floatant on my wings, usually. When I catch more fish and when it starts sinking, if I have, and usually I have, because I'm making like those flies in series all the time, if I have, I just change it with another fly. If I don't have it, then I would add some floatant. But the best thing is rinse it in water like so, a couple of seconds, just rinse it, then use paper tissue to squeeze out the water. So use the paper tissue like so, squeeze it very, very tightly, until the paper soaks in all the moisture, and then do a couple of false casts and your fly is ready to go. If you want, you can add some floatant, but only to the wings, as I said. Now guys, thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please like it, subscribe, and see you next week.